which is what if Naruto took off the frog mask part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. The night Kyuubi attacked. The fourth Hokage of Konoha looked at the window of the Hokage the east forest. He could see the red chakra between the trees, and the metallic sounds that revealed the fighting. The giant mass of orange chakra of the Kyuubi was impossible to miss. Kyuubi was approaching, nearer and nearer to Konoha each second that passed. He looked back at the blue-eyed tiny baby, his son, his happiness. He had only minutes of life, and he was sleeping peacefully, a seal half drawn in his belly. He suppressed a shiver. If the plan was successful, he would die, sacrificing his soul to the Kyuubi, and the Kyuubi would be sealed in little Kyo. In the worst-case scenario, the jutsu would fail, and he and Kyo would die, with the rest of Konoha with them. The image of a defenseless baby in front of the Kyuubi scared him to no end. He concentrated again and continued painting little Kyo's belly. The little boy who, if all went right, would find himself fatherless and with a giant demon fox sealed in his belly. It was good that he wouldn't survive today. Even if he didn't die from the process, the mother would likely kill him. Not that he wanted to die. It was his last option, obviously, when it was clear that evacuating the village was not possible. The Kyuubi was blocking the only escape route. He briefly toyed with fleeing the village with little Kyo. He was the Yellow Flash, the fastest ninja in Konoha. He would be most likely able to escape. When they got an idea of what happened, he would be long gone. He shook his head. He would never forgive himself, his wife would never forgive him, and it was his wish and duty to protect the village. And he had only been Hokage for 1 week. A week before life was perfect, he was the Hokage, he was going to have a son. And the damn Kyuubi appeared. There was someone up there that hated him. He had told the plan to the village elders, that he was going to seal the Kyuubi in a baby. That was the only way. He hadn't told them that most likely his soul would be together with the Kyuubi in the sealing process. Also, he hadn't told them what baby he was planning on using. The village council were too busy trying to change his mind, to ask about the hypothetical container of the Kyuubi. If he was correct, sealing him anywhere else would kill the container. It had to be a baby, because their chakra system was not developed. It could adapt to the added chakra of the Kyuubi. And he had designed the seal in a way that the container would be able to draw chakra from the sealed. It was wrong for him to say, but it was bloody brilliant. The fourth Hokage finally completed the seal drawing, picked the young Kyo and jumped from the window, while calling Gamabunta in midair. He steeled his resolve. He had one demon fox to seal. In huge Gamabunta leaps, he approached the battlefield, which now was to damn near Konoha Hospital, where all the injured and dead were kept, where his fellow ninjas were holding the Kyuubi. The fourth Hokage entered the battlefield, with his white robes with red flames flying in the night's wind, his spiked yellow hair also flying in the wind. In top of the giant toad, only thing that was odd was a bundle tied in the back of the Hokage. The image of Konoha hero accomplished the impossible. The few shinobis that were still alive, defending the hospital ruins, got hope back in their hearts, and a strong feeling of hope and resolve filled their hearts. It was somewhat anticlimactic. The fourth Hokage started to make hand seals. He'd done that so fast that no one could distinguish them, and a huge spectral figure appeared floating roughly 3 meters in the back of the Hokage. The god of death, who in a fast movement, passed his ghostly arm through the bundle in his back and the Hokage himself. The Yellow Flash performed his trademark jutsu, and in an instant was in front of the fox. Strangely enough, Gamabunta was also transported with him. And then the Hokage made a hand seal. The god of death moved his arm further through the Hokage and the bundle, and grabbed the Kyuubi. The Kyuubi moved his tails, trying to attack the tiny blonde, who was trying to grab him, and then, she felt a sensation in his chest, and suddenly became paralyzed. Her tail stopped mere centimeters away from the Hokage's face. The Hokage closed his eyes. A sudden light was seen by everyone present. The god of death was grabbing the soul of the Kyuubi, and dragging it towards him. In an amazing moment, the Kyuubi's chakra seemed to become smaller, and smaller. She was being sucked to the Hokage's body slowly. The present shinobis had to cover their ears because of the demonic scream that came from the Kyuubi. It took only 30 seconds, and it was over. The Kyuubi was nowhere in sight. The Konoha ninja started to cheer, scream and celebrate. The Kyuubi was nowhere to be seen, and fourth Hokage was victorious. And then they fell silent in a second, when their hero's body fell lifeless in the head of Gamabunta. The silence only broke a few minutes after, and it wasn't broken by a shinobi. It was broken by a crying baby. It was hours after the attack, when one puzzled and intrigued Sarutobi, now resuming his duties as Sandaime Hokage after his successor sacrifice, named the unknown crying infant Uzumaki Naruto. Chunin exams, second test, 67 hours remaining. I will give you our scroll, if you let us go, Sasuke said to the white-faced creepy guy. Was Sasuke crazy? How was possible that he would give the scroll to the enemy? It was impossible, unforgivable, sickening, totally wrong. That was not Sasuke. That one was a coward. And Sasuke throwed the scroll to that white-faced guy. Was he dreaming? He wouldn't allow that. Naruto jumped, and caught the scroll in midair. And then Naruto punched Sasuke. It was hardly possible that the white-faced creepy guy would let them get out even if they gave the scroll. Naruto hoped that the punch made him react. Fighting someone who had Sasuke scared silly was something he dreaded and awaited eagerly. Sasuke was scared, so he had to finish the job himself. He charged to the enemy. And the enemy summoned a giant snake and commanded it to eat him. He felt angrier than ever. And his whisker marks widened, his eyes changed color from his ble sky blue to light red. He felt the fox chakra engulf his body, new smells entered his nose, and he could hear the snake moving clearer than ever. He was falling to the ground, the snake following him shortly. And then the snake changed his trajectory, going to Sasuke. A Sasuke that hadn't moved since he charged to the white-faced creepy guy. He made a quick leap, and put himself in front of the snake, stabbing his nose with his kunai, and pushing with all his Kyuubi Ichon forces against it. He succeeded. The snake didn't reach Sasuke with a pair of meters to spare. And Sasuke still hadn't moved. Was he stupid or what? Hey, are you alright, scaredy cat? It was satisfying, really. He wanted to say that back to him since that time with Tazuna and the demon brothers. But there was no time to gloat. The white-faced bastard got his long tongue and with it he lifted him. Damn, he knew he hadn't the time to spare to make Sasuke wake up from his terrified state. He could not move. The pale guy had him in an iron grip with his tongue and lifted met face to face. And he was helpless. He kept struggling to get couldn't die there. He had still to become Hokage. And Paleface said that he was the nine-tailed fox. He knew. How? He was a grass nin, it was impossible that he knew. He moved harder trying to get out. The creepy dude was doing something to his belly. Great. Was the grass shinobi a pervert? He looked at the hand of the grass nin, there were 5 smaller blue fires, that looked bad. He moved harder, he tried to kick the grass shinobi. The grass shinobi shouted, Gojio Fuin. 5-element seal. He felt a burning sensation to his stomach, and immediately after the burning sensation started spreading all around his body. He felt the Kyuubi chakra leaving him, his eyes turning back blue, his conscience fading. The world was tuning black, and he felt himself falling. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke bastard was still there frozen in fear. And they called him stupid. Well, he was the one falling to his death. Was he dead? He looked around. If he was dead definitely he wasn't in heaven, there was no free ramen in hell then. It was different from what expected hell to be. He expected a huge dark cave, raging flames, huge demons, boiling cauldrons, sulfur smell, that sort of thing. All in a shade of red. He didn't expect dark passageways filled with water. Well, he had nothing to lose. He was already in hell, right? He followed the passageway. Yes, it was hell. His own personal hell. There he was, in front of Kyuubi. Or what he supposed was the Kyuubi. Not that he wanted to meet him personally, thank you very much. It was a giant cage, with steel bars. Oddly enough, there were 2 sets of bars. The first ones, nearer to the Kyuubi, were vertical, and the second set, nearer to him, were horizontal. Author notes. The second set, are products of Orochimaru tampering with the seal. He sighed in relief, at least, the beast was sleeping. He didn't want to meet the Kyuubi. The giant furball was the responsible that his life was shit. Well, not that it really mattered. He was already dead. He looked at the sleeping Kyuubi, wondering if he should wake him. What would he ask him? When he was thinking about it, a voice startled him. It had been a long time, Kyo-kun. He turned himself. There was another cage. And inside of it was a smiling dead man. The 4th Hokage. Naruto stared at the supposed dead man. The smiling dead man. The smiling bastard that sealed the furball in his belly. He couldn't control himself. He pointed with his finger at the man and shouted. You, bastard. You are the responsible for sealing the furball in me. You destroyed my life. Naruto outburst had an effect that no previous outburst from him ever had. The receiver of his angry shout looked so sad, that would break the heart of the most evil being in the universe. The man responded, with a sad voice. Trust me, Kyo, there was no other option. If there was, do you think I would have done this? He moved his hand in a wide arc, pointing at his surroundings, the snoring Kyuubi, and the bars in the cage. Naruto continued looking at him. The man continued, do you think I wanted to die? Do you think I wanted to seal her in you? What kind of heartless bastard you took me for? Kyo, there was no other option, he said, while tears appearing in his eyes. Naruto was puzzled, who was Kyo? Why was the 4th calling him that? He scratched his head, and asked, who is Kyo? The man's eyes widened. He was speechless. In a shaking voice he asked, NNO, you, but. It's impossible. She whispered to himself, she would have told you. It's impossible. The man looked at Naruto's eyes and said, it's your name, Kyo, Kuchiba Kyo. That name rang a bell in Naruto's head. He had somewhere else that name. Where he had heard it. Naruto tried to recall it, When he had heard about that, yes, Iruka-sensei had said it in History of Konoha class, yes, she knew. It was the second Hokage, right? Was he related to the second Hokage? He asked the man. So, I'm related to the second Hokage. The man seemed even sadder when he said that. He said, while now avoiding eye contact with Naruto. No, the second wasn't a Kuchiba. I am, my name is Kuchiba Kiro. The man paused, and then added, I'm your father. Naruto lost his step, and fell backwards in the water, wetting himself, while looking at the caged man, who revealed himself as his father. He stared, his mouth hanging open. Kuchiba Kiro was seated in his tiny cell, in a big rock that was barely surfacing the water. He was wearing the traditional Konoha Junin uniform, complete with camouflage pants and a flak jacket, a white cape with burning flames decorating it. He had his Konoha forehead protector tied in his right shoulder, and his spiked blonde hair reached his shoulders. He looked no older than 22, the age he had when he died. Liar. Naruto shouted while observing the fourth reaction. Was that serious? Was that true? Naruto asked. You are my father. How? Naruto asked, while looking at Kiro with hopeful eyes, like a dream come true, inwardly dreading the truth. That it was a lie. That he would wake up and find that it was a dream. That he was alone again. The man smirked. An evil idea entered his mind. Do you mean you don't know how babies are made? Well, it's an interesting concept, he said, his eyes betraying his inner mirth. He continued, do you know about flowers and bees? No, shut up, I already know that, Naruto shouted. He glared at the older man who was laughing at him. I mean, I was told I was an orphan, no one told me who my family was. The man regained his previous serious attitude immediately. Your mother didn't tell you. Naruto looked confused. My mother. I am an orphan. The third told me that my parents died during the Kyuubi attack. The fourth seemed really surprised by that statement. What happened to her? Last time he'd seen her, she was sleeping peacefully, after Kyo had been born. She was only tired. How was that possible? She wasn't there to take care of Kyo. The only answers for that were that she wasn't able to do so. He knew her. There were two possibilities, or she didn't know, like somebody told her that Kyo died with him or something like that, or she was unable to do so. In a coma, insane, or dead, with a capital D. The idea was so horrific, that he was barely containing his tears. He knew what was growing up without anyone. He knew it very well. He was an orphan himself. Naruto then asked, Nay, how is that I wasn't told about you being my father? Kiro answered. No one knew, there was an issue in your mother's clan, he then added. Are you familiar in bloodline seals? Since Naruto looked puzzled, he explained about it. You see, in certain clans, especially those that have a bloodline, they use a seal to make sure that their blood doesn't go out of control of the clan. For example, the Hyugas have the caged bird seal. If someone of the clan betrays them, they go, use it, and kill them. In the wrong hands it's basically a slavery jutsu. Naruto was horrified. A slavery jutsu? What kind of sick bastard used a jutsu like that? He made a decision. He straightened his legs, looked at his father's eyes, and shouted, when I become Hokage, I will outlaw that. That's a promise. And I don't go back in my words. It's my ninja way. The man winced at the volume of the statement, but chose to ignore it. Yes, I was going to do that, but the Kyuubi attacked before I did anything about it. He looked at the sleeping beast in the cage in front of him. Good. Naruto hadn't awoken her. Kyuubi didn't appreciate being awakened. And he had no desire to deal to an annoyed giant furball. Well, about those slavery seals. Your mother clan had one, not a particularly nasty one, but pretty bad, especially if you were a female of said clan, he smiled. Since they didn't want their bloodline to escape their control, they gave every female born in the clan a cursed seal. A cursed seal that destroyed their ability to have babies. If they married outside the clan, they couldn't be mothers. Naruto was sickened. How could someone destroy the chance of someone to have a family? And he was related to those bastards. Great. Just great. The fact is that your grandfather didn't like that seal. Basically, the history is that his twin was given the seal, and when she found that she wouldn't be able to have a family of her own, she killed herself. Naruto closed his fists in anger. Anyone who wanted to form a family should be able to do so. And when your mother was born, your grandfather knew that the main family would give her the cursed seal, destroying her chance to have a family. Since he didn't want that, he told everyone, the village and the main family that he had a son, he named her Mako. It was because of that that we told no one about our relationship. If they found the truth about Mako, they would have given her the seal and sentenced to death your grandfather. He smiled, and even worse, you wouldn't be here. Naruto was getting every word, every bit of knowledge burned in his mind. It was the first time in all his life that anyone told him about his family. Kiro sighed. The plan was that a pair of weeks after I was nominated Hokage, I was going to abolish the use of the cursed seals. And come clean about the relationship with your mother. Fate had other plans. I have 9 tails and I'm immortal attacked our village, and I had to help defend it. The only way I found to stop her was sealing her into a live container. Nothing would be strong enough to accept the foreign chakra without dying. Only a newborn baby wouldn't have his chakra system developed, thus being able to accept the foreign chakra of the Kyuubi. In those days, the only newborn baby was you. Kiro stopped talking. Naruto was thinking so hard that it seemed that smoke was going to escape his ears. He then reached a conclusion. Nay, did you said that mom had a bloodline? I have a bloodline, tell me. Kiro smiled at his childish antics. Kyo, and then suddenly Naruto interjected. No, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. Remember that. The fourth Hokage smiled at him. Okay, Naruto, I will remember that. Naruto entered hyper mode and asked, about my bloodline. Is it cool? What I can do? Fly, freeze enemies, see trough walls. What can I do? Tell me, tell. Kiro scratched his head and said, well, I am not sure if you inherited it. Your mother had a dujutsu, and I bloodline. But everyone in her clan that manifested the bloodline had deep brown eye color. And you eyes are blue, I guess that you didn't inherit it. Naruto was dejected. He didn't have a bloodline after all. How unfair. Hey, Naruto, don't look so sad, maybe you have it. Your uncle Obito didn't awaken his Sharingan until he was 15 years old. Naruto had started going faster than ever, after his father lost words. Especially the Sharingan. The uncle part was interesting too, but what Kiro had said had implications. Scary, horrible, downright disturbing implications. But he had to ask it. Hey, Dad, does that mean that I'm related to Sasuke bastard? Kiro looked lost for a moment, and then comprehended the question. Yes, Uchiha Sasuke is related to you. Your grandfather are brothers. Yes, it was now official. Naruto was in hell, related to the stuck-up bastard Sasuke. It was disturbing. Kiro asked. And what about you? How are you doing? Naruto smiled weakly and replied. Pretty well, after all, I'm dead. Kiro denied with his head. No, you aren't dead. Dreaming, inconscious, yes, maybe even in coma, but not dead. We wouldn't be talking it if you were. I think that's something tampered with the seal. Those bars appeared here an hour ago. Tell me Naruto what happened. Naruto then remembered something. Shit. The pale-faced bastard was going to get Sasuke. I have to get up now. Kiro said. Calm down, Naruto, and explain me what happened, slowly. And Naruto explained it to him. The Chunin exam, and their encounter with the Snake Man, and his fight with him. Kiro did seem very interested with the seal the Snake Man used with him. After the explanation, Kiro looked thoughtful. After thinking for a moment he added, in your current situation, the most urgent would be awakening you. But since I don't know how to do that and you will awaken with time, I guess we would have to spend our time doing something constructive. I will teach you something you will need to do after waking up. Naruto felt a painful knock in his head, and he found himself suddenly awake. But he didn't show it. At his front was Sasuke and Sakura, sitting in the ground. At his left was the thick brows, and Ino, the thick brows was barely standing and leaning on the girl. But that was not the important point. Where was Orochimaru? Yes, she knew about him. His father was kind enough to tell everything he knew about him. His father had said after his retelling of his encounter with Haku, which included him saving Sasuke from the demon brothers, to rescuing Sasuke from Haku, the key of a successful shinobi is his head. A shinobi who does not think will not be a very successful shinobi, he said after he told him about high entrance in the bridge battle, and especially after he told him about entering Haku Demon Mirror's trap willingly. After talking about the situation he was when he entered Dreamland, he and Kiro talked about a further plan of action. First of all, Orochimaru was a missing nin, so if he was still there, he was supposed to perform his strongest cage bunshin when the pale-faced bastard wasn't looking, and send them all to the tower to gather help. So he looked around him. No sign of that Orochimaru. That was good. What was bad was the presence of some other shinobis. That was very bad. After all, it was a survival exam. They could be trying to steal their scroll. Yes, definitively they were trying to steal their scroll, so he suddenly jumped up, grabbed a pair of kunai from his kunai pouch, and was going to launch them to the battered Lee and Ino, when he found that he couldn't move. What happens to me? I can't move, he exclaimed. Was the pale-faced guy again? He inwardly berated himself. The plan was to appear unconscious, while he understood the situation. And he forgot to check behind him. What kind of ninja he was. Shikamaru's shadow had just connected with Naruto's. Sakura seemed pissed off at him. She shouted, Naruto, stop, they helped us, they are in our side. It took few seconds for it to sink. They are with us. Okay, it made sense. He nodded with his head, regaining his calm. A strange shadow broke the connection it had. Suddenly he could move again, and with the inertia he had, he fell to the ground. HMPFF. He ignored the pain the fall left him and looked at his back. There was Nara, Shikamaru and Choji. And before he had time to say anything, Shikamaru said, hey, you fell yourself, don't blame me. And then he added, how troublesome. Then, he noticed something and shouted in a worried tone, completely ignoring Shikamaru and Choji while approaching his teammates. Sakura-chan. He ran towards her. Sakura looked back at him, a little scared because of his worried tone, and then Naruto revealed what was troubling him. Sakura-chan, your hair. Sakura looked like it wasn't a big deal. Oh, that. It's a change of look, and then added, truthfully, I prefer long hair, but it would have been a bother for traveling in the woods. Ino and Sasuke kept silent about that. Naruto wondered if they knew something he didn't. What happened when he was in Dreamland? He would have to ask, but before he was able to do so, a beautiful female shinobi landed in front of Sakura and the unconscious Lee. She was dressed in a sleeveless pink Chinese shirt, a black pants, and shed her hair tied in 2 buns, one of each side of her head. She said, I'll take care of him. She grabbed Lee, and started to shake him forcefully, while yelling, get up Lee. And it was working. Lee awakened, and even in his half-zombie state, recognized his teammate. Huh, Tenten, what are you doing here? Tenten was annoyed at her teammate, obviously. She missed their meeting, and she engaged a team of 3 alone against express instructions and common sense, and he had his kicked in the process. If he cost them the exam, there was going to be hell to pay. She said, I've come to save you. Then Lee asked about the sound shinobis, and that obviously annoyed Tenten. After all, Lee was in no state to fight anytime soon, and the hopeless fool still looked for enemies. Typical of him. Tenten scolded him, how did you get the brilliant idea to fight alone? At that, Lee visibly flinched. Look at your state, it will take days to get you back to shape. She reviewed in her mind what she had seen of the combat with the 3 sound nins, and reached a conclusion. There was nothing that Lee could have done against them. The thought made her angry. She couldn't control herself. You are an idiot. She shouted. Lee adopted a contrite expression, obviously deeply regretting his actions. This time, I have no excuse, he said, totally subjugated by Tenten's domineering attitude. Naruto couldn't help himself. Seeing a boy getting a lecture from a girl, he laughed, hard, and pointing at Lee, he said, haha. Poor fuzzy eyebrows. Tenten now directed her irritation at Naruto. Lee helped saving his while he was unconscious. What right he had to laugh at Lee? She briefly toyed with the idea of sending a pair of throwing kunai towards him as punishment, but Sakura beat her in giving punishment to the loudmouth. She punched Naruto so hard, that he flew literally 20 meters before landing. Tenten respect towards the pink-haired Kuonichi rose from, I can't believe they let her become a Kuonichi, category 2, is she idiot or what, category. She punched him hard and she knew he deserved it, but injuring your teammate in the middle of an exam wasn't a good idea. At the other end of the clearing, Shikamaru commented to Choji, handling girls is not his thing I guess. Sakura then thanked Lee, you have made me realize something. I think now I'm a little stronger. Tears appeared in Lee's eyes after Sakura's statement. But a thought was still in his mind. He was unable to defend Sakura. I'm not strong enough, Lee said, and then looked at Sasuke. Sasuke, you must be truly an Uchiha genius, you made them run away where I was beaten in an instant. That surprised Sasuke. He knew how strong Lee was, he lost against him before the first exam. How was possible that these 3 defeated Lee? Was that Mark responsible for that? Lee painfully got up, and looked at Sakura. The lotus flower of Konohagakure village will bloom again. And next time we met, I will be much stronger. I promise it. Tenten felt relieved a little at that statement. Lee was back to his normal self. Well, as normal as Lee could be. Sakura felt touched by Lee's determination. She smiled at him. All right, she said at him, while Naruto pouted. Sakura never treated him that way. It was unfair. Then Ino shouted at Sakura. Sakura, come here a moment. I will fix your hair. Ino actually fixed Sakura's hair, while trading with her some insulting remarks, especially about her hugging Sasuke. The animosity between the 2 Kuonichis reaching new heights. Meanwhile, Neji mentally evaluated Sasuke's ability as a ninja. He liked challenges. XXX. Chunin exams, second test, 38 hours remaining. Naruto looked around. He was alone. Finally, he volunteered to go looking for wood, but for what he really wanted to do he had to be alone, not that Sakura complained about it. He was worrying about Sasuke, and having her time alone with Sasuke was a dream come true for her. Naruto seated himself in a big tree shadow, and opened his backpack. He got from it his mirror, an extremely useful ninja tool, good for looking around without actually exposing yourself, and for giving signals for friendly ninjas. He now took off his jacket and black t-shirt, exposing his torso to the morning breeze. Now it was the hard part. He subjected his mirror in the tree with a kunai, where it reflected his belly, and he used the monkey seal to mold charka, like his father had said. Immediately, his seal was visible, a seal which was different from last time he'd seen it. Naruto reached his pack again, and grabbed his writing brush from a closed plastic container and placed it near him. Then he opened his kunai pouch and selected a small kunai, specifically designed to hide in our forearms. It was very small and sharp, perfect for the job it had to do. He swallowed. One mistake could have catastrophic consequences. He lifted his kunai, closed his eyes, and stabbed himself in his left arm, blood now flowing freely. He threw rapidly his kunai, and grabbed his brush, he moved it towards his blood, and let the brush soak as much as it could. He tried to calm himself. That was the easy part. He looked at the seal in his stomach using the mirror, mentally remembering the seals and symbols his father taught him to reverse Orochimaru 5-element seal. He started very slowly and carefully. The first step was that counterclockwise elephant seal. XXX. Chunin exams, second test, 37 hours remaining. It was done, the drawings of the seal were now ready. Now, it was the time to complete the difficult unsealing jutsu. He was now really nervous. That seal caged the Kyuubi, the strongest of the Yukai, the demon who massacred in less than an hour more than a quarter of the shinobi contingent of Konoha. And he was tampering with the seal that caged the immortal demon, under the instructions of a man he only met in his dreams. Yeah, he was insane. He steeled his resolve. He promised he'd do it. And wasn't the greatest Hokage that ever lived yet, so he had to do this. He started to make the hand seals. Yes, the 57 of them. A long list of hand seals he had to memorize in those short hours of sleep. He started doing them, in fast succession. Monkey, ram, monkey, tiger, boar, bird, monkey, rat, dog, horse, serpent, dragon, hare, tiger, bird, ox, rat, horse. Rat, ox, dragon. The jutsu was complete. Naruto felt the pulsating chakra in his hands, only one last thing to do. There was something he forgot thought, but he couldn't put the finger on it. He ignored that feeling, and continued with the instructions. He forcefully pushed his hand with glowing chakra against his seal. The red drawings around the seal were now slowly being absorbed by the glowing blue chakra, and the Kyuubi seal, leaving his skin clear of blood. The process was getting more painful every second that passed. The pain in his chakra system was unbearable. It was like his body was all covered in fire. He felt an immense chakra escaping from the seal, and slowly filling his chakra system. His eyes turned to a deep shade of crimson, his birthmarks thickened, he felt his canines grow in his mouth, and his ears got pointy. He was completely surrounded by red chakra now, the chakra of the Kyuubi. His aspect was the same as the other time he used the fox chakra. When he couldn't stand anymore, and was about to start to scream from sheer torture, the sensation started to recede. His birthmarks slimed again, his ears regained their lovely round shape, his eyes returned to his normal blue, and the burning sensation slowly disappeared. The process was eating all his energy thought. He was losing consciousness again, he realized, he felt weaker and weaker. And in a sudden moment of insight, he realized what was bothering him a moment ago. He used a mirror to help him draw the seal. Shit. In mirrors you get the image inversed. He had inversed the drawing. He cursed his stupidity. He wanted to throw more random insults at himself, but he exchanged his anger at himself for fear, when he heard the maniacal laugh of the Kyuubi. Ha. After that, he lost consciousness. A young man was pacing inside a tiny cell in a dark sewer, while whispering to himself, he can do it, again and again, trying to convince himself. Kuchiba Kira was nervous. Really nervous. Naruto was going to do a highly difficult unsealing technique without proper supervision, and with only a few hours of rushed training. The fact that he had to get it right in his first try was also a motive to worry about. What possessed him to encourage his little baby to do that? Well, the fact that there was no alternative. After their chat, he had learned that Jiraiya Sensei and Tsunade were no longer in the village. Even worse, Naruto hadn't heard of them in his life. He hoped they weren't dead. That was really bad. Only they had enough skill to unseal that 5-element seal. No one else in the village had enough knowledge to do it. Well, there could be someone able to do it. His information was 12 years outdated. To be honest, the third or a high-level medic shinobi, maybe even someone really skilled with sealing jutsus could do it as well, but they would have to research a proper method, and that would take time, and Naruto had no time to spare. The seal didn't let the Kyuubi chakra escape and fuse with Naruto chakra system. The consequence of that was that the Kyuubi's chakra was slowly accumulating in the furball cell, an infinitely bad thing to happen. When the cell couldn't contain any more that excessive chakra, it would explode from the pressure, leaving the Kyuubi and that accumulated chakra free. That would be a disaster. And probably a messy disaster too, if his estimate was correct, and in the most optimistic approach, the explosion would wipe out only half of Konoha. Kyuubi would take care of the other half. Naruto had 4 or 5 days left at the very maximum. He hoped he had taken the right decision. Naruto could do it. He taught him the unsealing method, because it could be his only option. Kira paused and stared at the old light bulb in the sewer. And then, it began. What seemed like an earthquake started shaking the sewer. The old light bulb exploded with a small sound. The darkness claimed the sewer. Kira was now nearing panic. The first time Orochimaru placed the seal, there had also been an earthquake, true, but not one of that terrifying magnitude. The walls started to crack, the water returned to the sewer, but now, the water reached waist level, and was slowly rising. Not a good sign, really. An orange light filled the room, a light he knew well. it was the light that emanated from the orange chakra of the Kyuubi. He looked at the direction where the Kyuubi cell was. He could see her deep crimson eyes opening, looking around and booming, "What the hell is happening here?" Yes, the Kyuubi was awake. And she was not pleased. Kiro was now seated in the floor. Although he tried, he was unable to stand up, and the strong shaking of the sewer didn't let him. The earthquake was growing stronger and stronger. More cracks were appearing, in the ceiling, in the walls. The metal bars that were created by Orochimaru started to glow in a bright shade of red, and slowly, changed to yellow, while the earthquake was now so strong, that even the Kyuubi couldn't stand up. The Kyuubi continued cursing, "I will defecate in the responsible of this." While trying to stand up, and failing miserably, even with the aid of some of her tails. Orochimaru's seal bars was now glowing white, but they slowly lost brightness, and even more slowly, started to disappear. Event thought the earthquake was continuing. Now, random pieces of debris were falling from the ceiling. Kiro heard a great explosion at his back, and then the earthquake seemed to calm instantly. There were still random shakes, but nothing too unbearable. When he looked back, what was a solid wall a moment ago, was now a huge hole, and inside you could discern a spiral staircase covered by spider webs. While he was wondering what to do about that, he heard the loud voice of that overgrown kitsune. Yes, yes, exit. Free, free at last. After 12 years of being the neighbor of the Nine Tails, he knew the Kyuubi fairly well, and she wouldn't let escape that opportunity. Kiro glanced back at the opposite cell, and what he saw frightened him. The Kyuubi had a huge hole in the wall of his cell, and there was also stairs going up. The Kyuubi didn't doubt about the course of action. World, get ready, this girl is back in town. She escaped through that hole while maniacally laughing, muahahahaha. Kiro cursed, and ran up into his set of stairs. Somehow, he felt that reaching the top first was a matter of life and death, so he ran upstairs at full speed. And for the yellow flash, the fastest ninja in Konoha, full speed was something near Mach 7, there would be a sonic boom if it wasn't for the fact that he was a ninja, a silent killer. He made no sound. The stairs were long, and he was starting to grow tired. It was already more than an hour at full speed, and being a ninja, his resistance was huge, but that maniacal laughter from the Kyuubi gave him forces to continue. There, finally, was light at the end of the tunnel. A doorway filled with light was at the end of the stairs. And without a second thought, he entered it. Chunin exams, second test, 35 hours remaining. Naruto regained consciousness like always, completely healed and rested. Yes, back to normal. Before the unsealing procedure, he felt sore and weary. Having a giant furball inside had some good points after all. 3 months ago, he believed that everyone healed that fast. Well, it was a tiny compensation for how the village treated him. He opened his eyes, he had no idea how much he slept. It was time to get back to the camp. Sakura-chan was now probably worried sick. A deep voice reverberated inside his head. Ooh, pretty colors. Naruto jumped 3 meters in the air, while looking around. Who's there? Naruto shouted. Silence, flee, I'm enjoying the environment. Naruto picked a blood-stained kunai from the ground, the one he used to draw blood for the unsealing, and looked at the surroundings, trying to locate the owner of the powerful voice. Show yourself, fight like a man. He shouted randomly at the forest. Kyuubi answered back. Man, you dare insult me, you sorry excuse for a living being. I'm Kyuubi, the greatest of all Yukai, ridiculous human. Naruto was now panicking. I messed up, it's my entire fault. Damn mirror, I'm the biggest idiot to ever live. Naruto thought. I agree, you are most definitely the biggest idiot to ever live. Naruto shouted. Hey, take that back. He tried to glare at the source of the voice, but he couldn't find it. He looked around madly, trying to locate it. After he was unable to find him, he asked. Where are you? The Kyuubi laughed. Ha 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 ha, I'm closer than you think, I'm in your head, idiotic simian. Get out, leave me alone, go back where you belong. Naruto shouted as loud as he could. Do you think I will go back there, when in your head are more interesting things to do? Stop messing with my head. Naruto shouted. Messing, but if I hadn't done anything, yet. Naruto felt Kyuubi smirking in his head. I can see whatever you see, I can hear everything you hear, I can smell what you smell, and I can feel everything you feel. I bet I can control this ridiculous body if I try. Quote. I will not allow such a thing, a new voice said, a voice that Naruto recognized instantly. It was Kuchiba Kiro, 4th Hokage, Yellow Flash of Konoha, and his father. And how will you stop me, worthless monkey, easily ignorant fox? Kiro said, thanks to the seal, to control Naruto's body, you have to overpower his conscious will. And since I'm here, my will too. I will help him to keep you in line. He added, in a cold and serious voice that promised hell. You will hurt Naruto over my dead body. How sweet, I'm going to cry, Kyuubi sarcastically said. Do you really think I care about that pathetic simian body? I'm the greatest of all Yukai, I will not lower myself to steal an inferior being pathetic body. Naruto was now pissed at Kyuubi. My body is not pathetic. He shouted. He was lucky he was alone in his section of the Forbidden Forest, because if someone heard him talking alone, not only he would be attacked, he would be labeled as crazy. Ha 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 ha, your offspring is surely amusing, Blondie, I didn't laugh that much in the last 300 years. I will enjoy watching him immensely, Kiro voice added. Yes, he is something special. Now, to more important matters. What did you do to the seal? Naruto hesitated, and scratched his head. I kind of messed it up, you see, I used a mirror, Kiro shouted. What, you made the seal backwards? What kind of moron are you? Naruto winced at the volume his father used. It's not really nice having someone speak in your head. That, and the angry tone his father had. He only knew he had a father for less than a day, and he was already pissed off at him. What a wonderful son he was. Kyuubi boomed in laughter. Ha 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 ha. I can't believe it. The little baboon is even more stupider than I thought. Ha ha ha. Shut up, you oversized furball. Naruto shouted. The Kyuubi stopped laughing, and then Naruto asked. By the way, what is a baboon? It is interesting to say, that the Kyuubi laughed even louder at that question. Also refused to answer said question, which annoyed Naruto immensely. Naruto wanted to know what a baboon was. I can't believe it, of all the ways to mess up, he had to pick the most idiotic one. If Naruto could see his father, he would see him pacing up and down at the blindingly bright room at the end of the stairs. A room that he labeled Mind Room permitted Kiro to experiment every sensation that Naruto had, see everything Naruto was seeing. The sun, the gentle breeze, his hunger, the weight of his kunai pouch in his back, and everything Naruto could see and smell. In short, it was like he was Naruto body, but without being able to do anything, a mere spectator. There were more doorways there, but he hadn't explored them yet. Also, he could see the Kyuubi now in front of him in the same room with an expression that barely hid her inner mirth at the father-son exchange. He toyed with the idea of Rasenganing her multitail bottom, but in reality fighting was not a good thing to do. After all, the Kyuubi was immortal, and the fourth Hokage was already death. It would be an infinite fight. Naruto said, Nay, I have to go back to my team, they will worry about me, I don't know how long has passed. Kiro sighed. Okay, we will talk about it this night. Naruto was now near the river, the spot they picked to be used as a temporary base from the exam, was not far ahead. Naruto was nervous, what if he was unconscious for hours? What will they say? Even worse, what if he was unconscious for days, surpassing the time they had left therefore failing the exam? It was not a pleasant thought. Cheer up, even if you fail, there will be more exams. Kiro said, effectively darkening his sun mood even more. Naruto finally saw the river, and the camp the team had made, he could see the hastily improvised tent, and the fire near the river, where they cook fish. It was a relief, he was not too late. I can't believe someone was stupid enough to make a fire in a survival exam. Kiro exclaimed. Everyone could see the smoke in kilometers. Naruto flinched at that, he didn't think about that. Well, in his defense, it was Sakura's idea. He could now see Sasuke and Sakura. Sasuke was still resting in the improvised tent, and Sakura had already seen him, and was running towards him. Naruto grinned. Sakura was so happy to see him. Naruto noted happily that she couldn't control herself, and was running to hug him. Naruto opened his arms wide, expecting the hug, while shouting, Sakura-chan. But he didn't get a hug, he did get a straight punch in his face, a punch that sent him to the ground. What was that for? Naruto asked. What was that for? You left 4 hours ago. 4. To go looking for wood. And then you return with nothing. Inner Sakura was agreeing with outer Sakura, yes. He is an idiot SHANAROO. Naruto was scared by her teammate temper. He was rubbing his head, trying to ease the pain Sakura's punch dealt. Whoa, this one has a temper. Kiro said. Naruto retorted, tell me about it, that punch really hurt. Kiro said back, yeah, I felt it too, did I already say that I could feel everything you feel, by the way, who is her? Naruto seemed offended, she is Sakura-chan, my teammate. Huh, Sakura looked at him like he had grown another head. Did just Naruto introduce her? Could Naruto be in some kind of genjutsu? She made a hand seal, and shouted, Kai, effectively dispelling simple genjutsus. Huh, Sakura-chan, what are you doing? Naruto asked, while moving sideways his head. Kiro sighed, Naruto, she can't hear me, and talking to me is confusing her. Instead try to think, I believe I can hear your thoughts. Sakura looked embarrassed. Nothing Naruto, inner Sakura said. How could I have thought that Naruto was in a genjutsu, his mind is too simple to be affected with that. Really? Naruto thought, you can hear me. Yes Naruto, I can hear you. Cool. Naruto thought, can you do telepathy too? Kiro just ignored that question. Sakura seemed calmer, and asked, trying to forget her blunder for thinking Naruto was under genjutsu, what happened Naruto? How is that you were gone for 4 hours and you returned without the wood you were supposed to bring? The wood, Damn, I knew I was forgetting something. Sakura anger level got up another notch. You disappear for 4 hours looking for wood, and you just forget to get it. What did you do then? Naruto was panicking now. What I say, I can't tell her that I had gone to lift the 5-element seal Orochimaru put to the Kyuubi seal. Hiro chuckled at the predicament where his son was. You can always say that you got lost in the road of life. Yeah, good idea, thank you, you saved my life, Naruto thought strongly. Wait, that never worked, we always knew Obito was lying. Hiro said, trying to prevent his son to make a fool of himself. Naruto scratched his head, moved his head sideways, and closed his eyes, effectively assuming his practice mask. The mask of the dense and adorable prankster, the mask he used for the last 12 years. Nay, Sakura-chan, I got lost and I didn't know how to get back. Even inner Sakura sweat dropped and was left speechless. It was typical of him, he was unique. A leaf shinobi getting lost in a forest. The mere idea was ridiculous, but only Naruto was capable of that. Sakura sighed, he grabbed Naruto's ear, and dragged him to the tent, where Sasuke was resting. Sasuke was not unconscious, far from the truth, Sasuke was conscious and very pissed off. His two teammates allied themselves and ordered him to sleep. Their argument was that he was exhausted and needed rest from that fight if they wanted to pass the exam. Sasuke was not fooled thought. The reality was that Sakura wanted to take care of him. The thought that he was not capable of taking care of himself made him scowl. He was perfectly capable of taking care of himself, thank you very much. Naruto's motives were darker. He knew, the blonde enjoyed him being miserable, so he agreed wholeheartedly when Sakura suggested that he had to rest, and that they would take care of everything. Sakura was still scared, the vision of Sasuke covered with a violet chakra and black marks covering half his face was always present in her subconscious. The cursed seal made Sasuke act like a psycho, and she barely stopped Sasuke from killing those sound nins. Thank God she and Naruto managed to convince Sasuke that he had to rest. She looked at the annoyed Sasuke. It had taken a good deal of arguing to have him agree that they needed to rest, at least until the last day of the exam, that they were in no condition to continue. He knew him a little, his arrogance won't let him admit that he couldn't continue, especially if Naruto was in a better state than him. That scaredy cat comment Naruto said to Sasuke had done more harm than good, reigniting their rivalry to new heights. Sakura yawned. It was her turn to sleep now, it was now Naruto's turn to watch. Good night Naruto, wake us if there is some problem, or at dawn. She prepared her sleeping bag next to Sasuke. While secretly inner Sakura was suggesting to sneak into Sasuke's sleeping bag. XXX. Team 7 campsite, Chunin exams, second test, 30 hours remaining. Naruto was seated in front of the tent, where his two teammates were sleeping, talking to his father. He had told him his life, from living in his own apartment alone at age 5, the academy, the stares the villagers always gave him, and now he just told him about the night he found that the Kyuubi was sealed in him. It was the saddest and happiest night of his life. That day, he failed the Genin exam, he stole the scroll of forbidden techniques from the Hokage. Kiro and Kyuubi laughed a good deal about how he dealt with the old man, he learned the Kage Bunshin and a class jutsu. How Iruka and Mizuki found him, how he learned the truth why everyone hated him, that the Kyuubi was sealed on him. Kyuubi smirked at that, she loved being feared. How finally Iruka-sensei acknowledged him, and he gave him his forehead protector, a forehead protector he cherished and polished every day. Kiro did not show it but was burning with rage, how dare the villagers hate their savior. The boy who gave his normal life to contain the worst demon that ever lived. How they could be that stupid. Naruto continued his tale, it was lucky that Kiro accomplished that he thought about it, instead of talking. Because if he didn't do that, he would have already awakened his teammates. Then I got sorted in a team, with the prettiest Kuonichi in the leaf and Sasuke bastard. We were the last team to met our sensei thought, Kakashi-sensei is always late. Kakashi is your Junin teacher, Kiro said surprised. His eyes opening wide like basketballs. Yes, why, do you know him? He was my student, Kiro sighed. It seems like it was yesterday that we were doing D-ranked missions with Obito and Rin. You taught Kakashi-sensei. You did a lousy job, he is always late. I know, Obito's dead hit him hard, since then, every day he pays his respects to him every morning. It's because of that he is always late. Ha, great teacher, your students OR are always late. Kyuubi said. The two humans just ignored her. Huh, who is that Obito dude you kept talking about? Naruto said. Hey, I just delivered a pearl of wisdom. Said the Kyuubi clearly annoyed she was being ignored. Naruto and his father continued without acknowledging the demon words. He was your uncle, Mako, your mother, had two little brothers, the middle one was Obito, he was in my team, the youngest one, Shisui, wasn't in the academy yet when I died. About Obito, he is somewhat like you, he was believed to be a disgrace for the Uchiha clan. You should know that an Uchiha starts to show signs of the Sharingan when they hit around 10, I don't know exactly what are those signs, but what was a bad omen was that he needed goggles. No Uchiha who awakened the Sharingan before needed goggles, and wearing them was the biggest disgrace for an Uchiha. So when he hit 15 without awakening it, the main house unilaterally decided that Obito had to drop his career as a ninja, because his inability to awaken the Sharingan was shaming the Uchiha clan. But he was stubborn and didn't abandon, he was determined to awaken it, always saying that it was a matter of time he finally awakened it. His family, your grandfather and your mother supported him, even risking a conflict with the main house. It was thanks to that I meet your mother for the first time, when she went to talk with me about Obito. Oh, how romantic. Excuse me while I go puke. The demon said. Hiro tone saddened, while continuing his tale. Obito died in Kakashi's first mission as a Junin. That day was Kakashi's birthday. Obito forgot to give him a present, but promised him he would give him something. That day, he finally awakened his Sharingan, but shortly after that he died protecting someone he acknowledged as a friend. He protected Kakashi with his life. His last action was giving his hard-earned eye to Kakashi, as a birthday present. He was truly an hero of Konoha, and a shinobi worth looking up to. I'm Kyuubi, the greatest of all yokais. I create earthquakes with my tails, I breathe fire, I eat cities for breakfast. You can't ignore me. Hiro sighed. The Kyuubi was so annoying. He continued with his tale. It's a shame that the main house of the Uchihas never understood that. I should not tell you this, but your mother heard Sasuke's father saying that it was a relief that the disgrace of the Uchiha clan died and that he couldn't shame their precious name anymore. Naruto was crying now, the story had touched him deeply. Neither of them said anything, for the remaining of the night. Only the Kyuubi broke the silence of the night, telling them how great she was. It was a shame no one listened to her. Until Naruto, eventually, fell asleep. XXX. Team 7 campsite, Chunin exams, second test, 28 hours remaining. The Kyuubi had just returned to her cell, while muttering something about monkeys not giving her the proper respect she deserved, and how she was going to eat them all, slowly, very slowly, and enjoying every moment of it. Hiro was very grateful that the annoying and immature demon had gone to her cell to sulk. Her booming voice was giving him a headache. Or was the headache caused by his worry for his son? Great. Just great, Hiro thought. Naruto had just fallen asleep during his watch, fantastic. And you want to become a Chunin? Naruto was responsible for his teammates' lives, falling asleep during watch was something he could not condone, and something no Chunin would do. He had a long way to go if he wanted to be a competent shinobi. I will have a lot of work with him, he muttered. The first lesson is going to be, you don't fall asleep when you are keeping watch. When Naruto wakes up, is going to hear me. He thought angrily. The fact that Naruto had his eyes closed, rendering him unable to see anything, was another factor that explained his current mood. You don't stay for 12 years in a cold and wet cell, seeing the same landscape every day without being bored to death. Hiro wished Naruto's eyes to open. Unexpectedly enough, there was a flash of light, and Hiro felt himself in a new position, seated in something that resembled a rock, his eyes closed, his mouth open. Drool was falling from it. Hiro opened his eyes, he could see the forest at night. The forest where Naruto was. What was happening there? How is that he was out of Naruto's head and walking around? He wiped his mouth, and moved around, examining more closely the surroundings. Yes, it was definitely the camp Team 7 had made. He looked around, trying to find Naruto. There was the river, there was the tent where Naruto's teammates were sleeping, but no Naruto. Where was Naruto? Hiro had a bad feeling about it. Hiro did what he usually did when he had a bad feeling. Check if he had all his equipment. And then was when he found what was wrong. First of all, he had no backpack, so no medical supplies, maps, clothes. Second, his special kunai were nowhere to be seen. He had only a standard Konoha kunai pouch in his back. Third, he was wearing an orange jumpsuit. Hiro cursed in the middle of the night. He didn't know how it happened, but he was in Naruto's body. Naruto's body. He was in Naruto's body. He possessed his only son body. But that wasn't the priority now. The real priority was now to find what happened to Naruto. Because, if he was in control of Naruto's body, Naruto had to be somewhere else. Hiro seated and sighed. Naruto had just fallen asleep before he found himself in Naruto's body. Could it be possible? Did they mess something while the unsealing of the seal? That was the most likely answer, and was something too frightening to contemplate. Was Naruto in his place, in a cold cell, listening the rants of the insane Kyuubi? Well, there could be a way to find out. He concentrated, and tried to contact Naruto. If he and Naruto just exchanged places, he should be able to contact him. Hiro closed his eyes and while trying not to feel like an idiot, he sent a thought in his head. Naruto, are you there? The monkey you requested is currently unavailable, please leave a message after the signal. If I am bored enough, I might even pass it. And the Kyuubi made an evil overlord insane laugh patent pending. A laugh that Hiro guessed was to be considered the signal. Kyuubi, is Naruto here? Hiro asked to the fox demon. He really didn't want him to share a cell with the demon fox. The influence the insane, egomaniacal, demon lord could have in his impressionable baby could be devastating. Are you the densest simian in existence, or perhaps playing dumb? Of course the baboon is here. How is that possible? Asked a very puzzled fourth Hokage. The demon fox smirked. Let's see. It's time for a wonderful and invaluable lesson in basic logic, conveniently watered down so even simians like you could understand. Hiro remained silent. The Kyuubi was always sarcastic and demeaning, but her knowledge was unsurpassed. And if you managed to have her explain something, usually feeding her infinite ego, and giving her a right to brag even more, you usually got a piece of really useful information. Let's see. When the incompetent little baboon attempted to lift the seal that the snake put, he messed up. You tiny mind already grasped that. What you inexistent intellect was unable to grasp was what were the consequences of his meddling. First of all, your seal was supposed to let the baboon tap into my power. It was not supposed to slowly merge as three into an only being somehow. The baboon managed to alter the seal to do that. That is not a pleasant thought. Indeed, I do not relish forming part in a being 2 parts simian, 1 part me, but it's the disturbing truth. Now, our 3 souls started to merge, which would not be so bad, if it wasn't for the fact that his meddling also changed the behavior of the seal. Now, you used your life to seal me, and designed the seal to be powered by your life force and conscious will. That's fine and noble and all those crap that you primates are so fond of, but the problem is that since your 2 souls are linked, he is also powering the seal now. The problem is, that since he is actually alive makes his soul the principal energy source of the seal. Hiro was still absorbing the information when the bomb dropped. What? Naruto was the principal energy source of the seal. Hiro was panicking. Did that mean that Naruto was stuck in his old cell? No, that was impossible. Yes, idiotic simian, but do not worry, as I said, your souls are linked, so the seal picks energy from your 2 souls instead of only yours. It has no bad side effects at all. I'm spared of that because I'm the one sealed. And about the location of your pathetic offspring, you guessed right, he is sleeping in your old cell. Hiro tried to interrupt here, to ask questions about the state of his son. But when he was opening his mouth to interrupt, the Kyuubi cut him. Silence, disrespectful monkey. Do not dare interrupt me. The Kyuubi lowered his voice, almost turning it into a soothing voice, a voice meant to calm a frightened child. I know what are you thinking, and no, he isn't trapped in your old cell. Quite the contrary, I think that you both monkeys would be pretty happy for the outcome of the little baboon blunder. As I just said, the seal is powered by life force and conscious will, right? Good. Originally, your soul and will. But now, after that disaster, since your souls are linked, he is the primary source of the seal power, meaning, the seal takes most of its energy from his soul and will. That in itself has no consequence at all. He would not be able to feel it, and a soul is an infinite source of energy. What is the problem then? Quote. Hiro remained silent. He had no idea what went wrong. The Kyuubi sighed. I can't believe you are unable to guess the problem. I bet the little baboon inherited your stupidity. I will be brief. 1. The seal requires conscious will. 2. He is now the primary source of power of the seal. Quote. 3. He went to sleep, therefore no conscious will. Consequence. You take his position as the primary source of power for the seal when he sleeps, meaning you and him switch roles. So you are in charge of his body. When he sleeps, goes to your former cell, and he won't notice because he is sleeping. When he awakens, you go back to your cell and the little baboon to his body. And this is the end of today's Professor Kyuubi great lesson. I expect your homework tomorrow, class dismissed. Hiro mind didn't acknowledge the parting joke of the Kyuubi after a while, he was too busy exploring the consequences of what Kyuubi said. Starting today he would be in charge of Naruto body when he would visit Dreamland. XXX. Hiro was seated in the rock. He had just finished setting a few basic traps. The poor quality supplies Naruto had at his disposal were so few and battered it was a challenge worthy of his skill. That was something he wondered. How was possible that a genin was unable to afford a decent quality equipment? When he explored his weapon pouch and his backpack, he was surprised to find so few and old supplies. Hell, some of his equipment was outdated when the 3rd Hokage was a genin. Did the pay for doing D-ranked missions? At least he maintained those few rusty tools in a clean and sharpened state. Well, he had the basics covered. He didn't oil them, and he didn't paint them black to avoid the sun reflecting in them, and there were some rusty parts in some of his few kunais. Well, proper care of ninja equipment was going to be a subject of his upcoming lecture. If the boy wanted to be a competent Hokage, first he had to learn to be a competent ninja. He had only 4 explosive tags, 12 shurikens, and 3 of them were broken. No smoke bombs, no thread, no pills, no medical supplies. Well, that one was somewhat reasonable. With the different metabolism Naruto had thanks to the Kyuubi, it was likely that some pills and medicines wouldn't work with him, or have completely unexpected results, and thanks to his fast healing rate, they were rather redundant. But what was unforgivable was the orange jumpsuit. It was like a neon sign that screamed "hit me." Of course, thanks to Naruto's demonic healing and endurance, drawing the enemy attacks to himself wasn't such a bad idea. What was worrying him was why Naruto felt it was a good idea to wear such outfit, and if what he told him was true, he guessed it was to get as much attention as he could, because the boy was severely love-starved. That was something he was going to rectify. The boy would know that there were people who loved him, even if one of them was dead and sharing his body. Kiro sighed. What would he do during those nights he would stay in control of Naruto's body? Train. Well, he had done his good share of training, really, but only physical training would help Naruto. Chakra control and tactics would not help Naruto, only himself. Well, if he was going to help Naruto and take care of him at night, he would have to get familiar with his body. He could already feel that his sun chakra system was pretty messed up thanks to the Kyuubi. Which was bad, he would have to relearn chakra control. He opened a hand, and tried to form a Rasengan. It didn't work. He was only able to summon a tornado-like blob of chakra, not the perfect sphere he was used to make without difficulty. He sighed. There was a lot of training needed to catch up. Kiro looked at the sleeping forms of his son's teammates. They were sleeping peacefully. He didn't know them, of course. Hell, the girl hadn't been born yet when he died, but he wanted to talk to the Uchiha. His secret wife was a member of the Uchiha clan, although the main family couldn't stand her, so Sasuke was the individual in his immediate reach most likely to know what happened to his wife. Why she hadn't taken care of Naruto. She loved her baby dearly and there was no way in hell she wouldn't take care of him if she could. So despite how much the idea hurt him, something had happened to her. He was going to find what was. Although he doubted Naruto would be able to extract useful information about the other boy family, after they talked and some memories he was able to access, he could conclude that interrogation and information gathering without attracting attention weren't Naruto's strengths. Well, the boy had great potential, but his current abilities were very limited. Extremely high chakra capacity, enough that with proper chakra control he should be able to create a Kaden jutsu around 12 times the size of Konoha, extremely high resistance, adequate strength and an amazing healing factor, and regeneration. It took several experienced medic nins, complicated seals, a lot of chakra, and a week-long process to restore missing limbs, and the Kyuubi said if it was necessary, her chakra could help him restore an arm in less than 20 seconds. But there were also the minuses. His taijutsu sucked, he had no style or form to speak of, his speed was abysmal, hell, he fought like a common thug, his success until now was that he relied on hordes of cage bunchins and his unending stamina. With a proper style, a body trained with speed and endurance, enough chakra control and coordinated tactics with his cage bunchins, he could be deadly. His ninjutsu was the only thing where he was semi-decent, if knowing a Junin-level jutsu and a few basic academy jutsus could be called decent. Genjutsu. Was the harem no jutsu a genjutsu? If not, this department was non-existent. Ninja tools. Well, if the state of his tool pouch was any indication, that wasn't an area he was focusing much. His tactics and strategy were acceptable, definitely under what a genin should have, but not under the category of a chunin. Stealth. Only 2 words. Orange jumpsuit. A huge depression was starting to form. No, it was better not to think about that. And that idiot Kakashi nominated him for the Chunin exam. Kiro would like to have a long talk with Kakashi. And Naruto had a long road ahead if he wanted to be Hokage indeed. Kiro opened the weapon pouch, and grabbed a kunai and a sharpening stone. There was a long watch ahead, and he had a long night to think about the best training for his son. XXX. The Kyuubi looked at the huge room filled with strange machinery. It looked like a 19th century factory, with several giant gears, manometers, pistons, hydraulic devices, a giant water wheel, and several other complicated devices all somehow connected. The Kyuubi eyes were drawn to the important part. Few parts of machinery were moving, and those that were, it was at in a slow pace. Everywhere she could see, she had a perfect sight and it was a huge room, was rusty and broken. It looked like an abandoned 19th century factory. But the really important part was a giant digital panel in the wall. A panel that read in blinking red letters. Mind efficiency. 16%. So she was right, the boy had a potentially brilliant mind, but thanks to her demon chakra, he had been unable to reach his full potential. When she had met the boy the first time, she was shocked to find that the son of one of smartest and strongest human that she ever met was that stupid. And she had found the answer. She messed up. Of course, trying to help the boy inside her cell was not exactly an easy thing to do, and she managed to give him nearly endless stamina and regeneration. There was nothing impossible for her. But the truth was that her intervention had some unforeseen side effects. Well, perhaps she owed him returning his mind to what it was supposed to be. Not that she liked the boy, oh, no, she only wanted her container to be worthy enough for her. Well, maybe helping him in this department wouldn't damage her image. The father was a really nice simian. And the boy was adorable. What was she thinking? Was she getting soft in her 200.000 birthday? How could she find a lowly human adorable? She was a demon. She was above those feelings. She looked again at the broken machinery. Well, she owed the boy it. After all, she was the one that broke it. And she had nothing else to do. The Kyuubi reached a decision. That machinery was going to be repaired and returned to his former glory of 100% efficiency. She remembered the smile the boy had. She wondered if she was capable to reach at least 120% efficiency. Not that she would ever admit it, but she realized she liked the loud boy, so she was going to give her best shot. And several months later, his mind worked at 134% efficiency. Naruto was deep in thought during his improvised breakfast consisting of roasted fish they just caught in the river. It wasn't ramen, but that wasn't what was troubling him. It was weird, was the predominant thought in Naruto's mind. 2 days ago he didn't know who his father was, he didn't know that his real name was Kuchiba Kyo, hell he didn't know he was related to Sasuke bastard. That one was the worst of the lot. Not only he was related to Mr. Brooding, also, he was related to one of the worst criminals the Leaf had ever seen. Yeah, because now he knew about the Uchiha massacre. And it wasn't thanks to Sasuke, there was no way he would be asking any favor to the stuck-up one. No, it was thanks to Sakura, who knew everything worth knowing about the brooding Uchiha. With little effort, he was able to have Sakura give Sasuke life history. 2 words, Uchiha massacre. So the bastard had some insignificant reason to be stuck up. Good for him. What was of relevance was that the only lead he had to find his mother, he had a mom. Could you believe it, was gone. Also, there was also the minor matter about having dad using his body when he had gone to sleep. The old man was pretty ashamed of it. Naruto didn't find any problem about it, really. When he slept, he wasn't using his body, right? And having him helping training, would be very welcome. He could do the dishes and laundry too. Also, his reaction about learning about the Uchiha massacre was really odd. Wasn't he the legendary 4th Hokage? He learned from the academy that he was the paradigm of what a shinobi should be. That he was capable of keeping a level head in the direst situations. And what happened when he learned about it? He'd gone nuts. He started screaming, crying, and sobbing. He was still suffering from a huge headache consequence of his breakdown. Well, he would have liked knowing Grandpa. From his dad histories, he seemed rather nice. But with his luck, had he survived, he would be one of those who stared at him with disgust, or even worse, with open hate. Well, in retrospect, he was better than 2 days ago. Now he had a ghost father, who would help him train. Naruto smiled. Trained personally from the legendary 4th Hokage. Beat that Sasuke bastard. Naruto wondered where his father had gone. After learning about the fate of the Uchiha clan, and having that breakdown, he could not feel his presence anymore. Naruto sighed inwardly. It wasn't important. After all, he couldn't go anywhere, right? So he'd come back for a chat sooner or later. He should concentrate on the current exam. Sakura was talking about the scrolls, and the fact that they had only one scroll. XXX. Kiro was pacing in those bright rooms without a destination in mind. He still felt too shocked. The Uchiha clan was all except one young boy gone. He was recalling their faces in his mind again and again. Especially his wife family, a little family that was too kind to adopt him as one of them. His early relation with them was a professional one. He was entrusted with the responsibility to guide Uchiha Obito in his first steps as a ninja. The day he visited them for information about the Sharingan, and what he should do to help him awaken it was the day that he met his adoptive family, the start of the friendship that he had with the wonderful woman that would eventually become his wife. He didn't knew then that she was a woman, since her family helped her masquerading as a man to avoid the sterility seal that the main house of the Uchihas forced in every woman to avoid their bloodline escaping their control. He got to know them in the short years past being Obito instructor and helping him become an excellent ninja. A task that seemed impossible due to the pressure of the main family to have Obito resign as a ninja, due to his inability to awaken the Sharingan. But Obito family was supportive of him, and defied the main family orders. He defied them too. He was sure Obito would awaken the Sharingan, he was too stubborn to back up. He smiled inwardly. Naruto shared that trait with his uncle, he was also too stubborn to back up. And then Obito fell in combat. No one of them did blame him for it. But he had blamed himself. His future father-in-law, Uchiha Yasutani, was the one that made him see the truth. He was not responsible for Obito's choices, he was powerful, but not infallible. And Obito finally accomplished his lifelong quest, he proved everyone he could be an excellent ninja, and awakened the Sharingan. That man was something else entirely. If someone asked for a role model, he would have thought of Uchiha Yasutani first. He respected Jiraiya sensei, but he was a pervert. The man was in his early 50s and he was the youngest brother of the current Uchiha clan head, Sasuke's grandfather. That made him the leader of the branch house of the Uchiha clan. Although his relationship with his brother was awful, because his older brother was a firm enforcer of the clan rules, regulations and traditions that eventually drove his twin sister to an early death, she killed herself because she couldn't have a family thanks to the infertility seal, there weren't much people that wanted to be tied to someone who was unable to give birth to a new life. If that wasn't enough, there was also the conflict the brothers had about Obito. Yasutani fought all his life without success for a change in the clan policy that would give Uchiha women the freedom to form a family. He even told everyone that his daughter Mako, Kiro's future wife, and Naruto's mother, was a boy so she could have a chance to form a family of her own. A treason to the Uchiha clan that if found, would mean immediate death for him. It was so sad. If the Kyuubi attacked only a month later, with his authority as Hokage, he was the Hokage for only a week, he didn't have enough time to do any serious reforms. He would have forced the Uchiha clan to change its ways and Yasutani's lifelong wish would have been granted. Kiro sighed inwardly. He had wondered shortly after Naruto recalled his life what would have happened if he and Mako didn't plan to surprise Yasutani and told the wise old man about their secret marriage and upcoming son. Now he had the answer. Naruto would have grown with a loving family, and eventually he would be brutally murdered by Uchiha Itachi. A murderer he remembered as the little 4 years old that was always hanging with Shisui, the youngest son of the family. He really didn't know Shisui very much. At the time Shisui was born, he was training to become the 4th Hokage under Sarutobi himself, while still doing his duty as one of the village top junins. Although his secret girlfriend and future wife loved Shisui to death and was always talking about the little baby in the family. And they were all gone. All of them. People he called family, people he called friends. There would be more bad news. After Tsunade Hime disappeared mysteriously, Orochimaru betrayed the Leaf, losing a third of Konoha shinobi to the Kyuubi, his own death included. Konoha's power was greatly reduced. Kiro continued to pace restlessly. He entered without paying attention a room filled with machinery and loud metal noises. There was a giant digital panel in the wall, which read, "Mind efficiency, 18%. And a booming voice greeted him. Oh, the insignificant simian had somehow found his way here. Welcome to the presence of the greatest of all yokai. Make it quick, because I have a lot of work ahead. Huh, was Kiro's intelligent reply. The Kyuubi was near a big cluster of gears, doing something with a giant monkey wrench, while 4 of her tails were preventing a piston to move. It did look dangerous indeed. But what was the Kyuubi doing? He stared for a short moment, and then asked, "What are you doing? Are you stupid, simian? Can't you see how busy I am? This is a very difficult and precise task. One minor mistake could have terrible consequences that could take weeks to repair." Kiro wasn't worried about the Kyuubi tinkering with something in his son's body. In her words, she had no interest in possessing an inferior simian body, and she wanted Naruto to be the strongest possible. After all, the boy was the container of the greatest yokai, he had to be strong. The Kyuubi would not stand being second to anyone. The 4th Hokage shook his head, and waited. In those long years he shared imprisonment with the Kyuubi, he learned that she loved bragging, showing off, and using the knowledge she accumulated during her long life to show him that she was superior to him, the little simian who had the huge luck to seal her. It was only matter of time she explained what she was doing here. XXX. Naruto was pouting. He had just told Sakura his great plan to cheat in the Chunin exams, although he had a feeling it was a bad idea. They were running short of options. They were nearly out of time. Sasuke was still very weak, he tried to hide it, but he could see it. Sakura ninja's skills were still inexistent, and he was feeling weak from the unsealing ritual, so he had told his plan to Sakura, and tried to open the Earth Scroll, but that Kabuto guy from the written exam had appeared from nowhere, and prevented him from opening it. Where did the guy come from? Dad assured that no mere genin would be able to enter our campsite without triggering one of his traps. Is the guy that good? Naruto thought. While Naruto was thinking about it and ignoring the lecture glasses guy was giving about that if you opened the scroll you would be stuck in an hypnosis jutsu, Sasuke returned from his quest for water, and confronted Kabuto about his motives. Sasuke said that if he wanted to steal their Earth Scroll, he would have done it already. So he had a different intention. Naruto said nothing but noted the hidden insult. He was skilled enough to protect their scroll. Thank you very much. Sasuke asked Glasses Guy if he needed the Earth Scroll like them. And Glasses Guy showed a set of scrolls. Was he stupid? The guy knew they needed a Heaven Scroll. Naruto moved his head sideways to the right, adopting his clueless expression while he evaluated the situation. The guy was alone with a set of scrolls. They were 3-1. Naruto decided against it. Glasses Guy was a leaf nin like them, managed to pass through his father traps, and helped them avoiding a critical mistake. Add to that he was not afraid to show them his scrolls. Glasses Guy was bluffing, or he was a powerful comrade. Better not antagonize him. Glasses Guy was leaving when Sasuke challenged him to a fight for his scrolls. Well, they were really desperate, but Sasuke was wrong in his methods. With his experience as a prankster, he knew that if they wanted to play dirty, they should have attacked with no warning. Not that he approved about attacking a fellow leaf nin. Naruto was going to protest about it, when he felt it, a minor pull to his middle finger in his left hand. Someone had triggered a warning trap, someone was watching them. XXX. The Kyuubi closed the panel she was working in, and approached where the 4th Hokage was waiting. She knew that he wanted to know what she was doing here. Well, she wasn't planning to keep it secret. Hell, he could help in the repairs too. So, What brings the insufferable simian to my magnificent presence? She asked. I was wandering around, doing nothing of interest, when I found myself here. By the way, what are you doing here? And there it was, the question. Well, she would tell him, not without adding some cutting remarks in there. A girl needed her fun. Well, if you used your inferior eyes, looked to the wall, and managed to use your useless brain to deduce the truth, you would already know, you would have seen that we are inside your sun mind, in the hardware department to be more precise. Wasn't she great? She didn't answer exactly his question, provided helpful information and managed to irritate him in the process. Kyuubi 1 Human 0. The former Hokage crossed his arms, and glared at her, clearly annoyed at her. That doesn't explain what you were doing here. Did you look at the panel in the wall, idiotic baboon? The part where says that the macaque mind efficiency is at a mere 18%. I was fixing that. Aren't you the greatest of all yukais? Why are you lowering yourself doing that? Ouch. Kyuubi 1 Annoying Human 1. Foolish baboon, do you think I like being stuck in the clumsiest, dumbest, weakest macaque in existence? If I will lower myself to be stuck inside a stupid human, I want it to be a decent one. Phew. Great save. Kyuubi 2 Urchin Head 1. The human was covering his ears due to her exceptional volume. Excellent. Was that worth another point? Perhaps. The human asked, so how that Naruto's mind is only working at 18% efficiency? Oh, great question. Kyuubi 2 Smart Human 2. That, foolish human, is due to the macaque inability to fully integrate and use the incredible power my exquisite presence provides. His weak and insignificant brain was unable to integrate my demon chakra to his system. Even worse, his brain clumsy attempts damaged it to the sad state in front of you. She avoided the blame for it. Excellent. Great. Kyuubi 3 Baboon 2. Are you saying that your chakra damaged Naruto's brain? The former Hokage asked, obviously upset about it. The Kyuubi chuckled. The human was hyperventilating, but he managed to place the blame where it rightfully belonged. Magnificent Me 3 Hyperventilating Simian 3. Yes, idiotic simian, my chakra was a factor for the sorry state of the simian mind. Are you happy? Damn it, she fell into his trap. Semicolon. Kyuubi 3 Infuriating Blonde 4. The simian seemed to think about her statements, and asked the following, when you finish with it, he would be a super genius then. Not exactly. His efficiency is lower than normal because his brain is unable to control the improved body he has thanks to my great presence, not because he is stupider than normal. He can't control things like the regeneration, the stamina, his chakra control is really bad, he is physically unable to do a normal bunshin, he is also incapable to do genjutsu, his pulse for throwing weapons is really messed up, his reflexes are crap, hell, his brain is incapable to wake his bloodline limit too. Fixing all of those problems will take long, and bump his mind around 80% efficiency. Then, I would work with his meager IQ, it will improve too, but not to the level of super genius. Ha, excellent explanation. Point for the Kyuubi. Kyuubi 4 Dumbstruck Fool 4. So, are you saying that he was incapable to control his body properly, and when you finish with him, he would more powerful and smarter? Was the question the amazed simian made. Weren't you listening? Yes, foolish simian. And now leave me to work in peace. I need silence for this delicate task, and your simian stench makes me sick. Kyuubi 5 Defeated Simian 4. Game, set and match for the Kyuubi. She grinned. She saw the baboon stand up, leaving still overwhelmed with her wisdom. She loved doing that. Well, fun was over, she had a lot of work if she wanted to fix the little macaque. One of the warning traps had just triggered, and that meant that someone or something was watching them. Naruto's mind was running at top speed trying to find a possible path of action. The lessons in the academy said that if there is enough time, is always better to read the situation, and the words Kakashi-sensei always repeated came to his mind. Reading underneath of the underneath. What had just happened there? It was too strange to be a coincidence that just after that Glasses guy appeared, something triggered a warning trap. It was one of Glasses guy teammates perhaps. Maybe those scrolls were false, like the one he wanted to make, and his teammates would attack when they were unsuspecting. But that made no sense. If Glasses guy managed to pass through his father traps, wouldn't he have warned his teammates? Was he truly alone, and he engineered triggering the traps in a delayed fashion? Unlikely, but it was possible. What was more likely would be that Glasses guy was being followed. If his story was true, he was alone and with 2 scrolls. He was a perfect target. Suddenly finding yourself alone, what would be a wise move? Find one of your own village team, and travel with them. Especially if you had an enemy team after you. Naruto looked at Glasses guy, trying to size him. The traps he was able to avoid were telling him that he was no average genin. Well, there was also the possibility that the fire had given away their position because Sakura had outright refused to eat her fish raw, and Sasuke was still too weak to argue with her. And if you are Sasuke, you try not to attract Sakura attention more than necessary. And well, to be truthful, he also didn't like raw fish. He knew what a shinobi should have eaten it raw to avoid detection, but his stomach overpowered him. Well, That wasn't entirely true. He yearned to fight, and the quickest way to do it was to broadcast their position with the fire. With the traps all around, it could be a very efficient trap. It was a shame that he had not thought until now about having 3 cage buncheons in henge taking their place. Why were the really good ideas coming late? But the immediate problem was that someone was watching. Close, but not too close to trigger the most powerful explosive tags. Dad had to economize and place them strategically, because Naruto had too few. He told his dad it wasn't his fault that the mean lady at the civilian ninja supply shop was charging him thrice than normal because he was the vessel of the Kyuubi. She hadn't said it out loud, but Naruto wasn't that stupid. At least she sold to him actual usable equipment, unlike other shops. Especially the lone weapon shop that would actually sell to him. The man only sold him the worst kunai and shuriken imaginable at exorbitant prices. How he wished he'd made to Chunin in this exam. Then, he would be allowed to go to real shinobi shops, not the crappy ones led by civilians that mainly only sold to short-funded genins or clients of the Leaf Well. Almost every civilian and possible client who entered the ninja village was in trouble enough to hire a ninja, usually wanted some means of self-protection, mainly to feel safe, not only towards his problems, also because a hidden village was filled with highly trained and skilled ninjas that could kill them in mere seconds. That unnerved most people. In truth, it was really stupid. Why would Konoha attack its clients or allow them to be attacked in the village? Shinobi weren't stupid. It was so unfair, really. The real high-quality equipment usually were crafted by ninjas or master blacksmith, usually both, and the actual process to craft such high-quality weaponry was a village secret. So to avoid losing them to rival villages or missing nins, only Chunin or higher-ranked ninjas were given permission to buy them. Not that it worked. Usually, if a genin really needed something only available there, the parents bought them. Well, to be honest, the civilian shops also sold decent equipment, but almost all of them loathed him and refused to even sell anything to him. He really didn't blame them. Civilians usually didn't have the shinobi mindset and acceptance of the loss of a loved one, and the wounds opened 12 years ago were still fresh. What I'm thinking about? Concentrate, damn it. Naruto smacked himself. He was not thinking straight. He had to reach a decision about what to do about their stalker and not wonder when he was going to get decent equipment at a ninja-only equipment shop. He knew that looking around would give away that he detected him, so that was not an option. He studied the reflections in the river, and into that Kabuto guy glasses. He was lucky that he was in the appropriate angle to see the spot their eavesdropper was. What he didn't see was Kabuto raising an eyebrow at him. Kabuto had thought that the responsible for the traps around their camp was Sasuke, the one Orochimaru wanted. But when that pitiful Miss Genin who was following him approached, the one to get warned by the warning traps so cleverly hidden was the dead last Naruto. A genin that, if the academy records he managed to access weren't lying, was totally clueless around traps. Well, Kabuto would have to watch carefully the Kyuubi vessel too. Why Orochimaru overlooked the host of the Kyuubi was something Kabuto did understand. According to his data, the seal the fourth Hokage placed on him was more for containment purposes than for giving the boy ability to control the demon's power. Well, Kabuto wasn't going to complain. After his evaluation of him, the boy was extremely loyal to the Leaf, and the last they wanted was someone who controlled the power of a demon 9 times stronger than the one Gaara of the Sand had as their enemy. XXX. Naruto returned the attention to the actual quarrel between Sasuke and Glasses Guy. Sakura had just managed to disable their verbal fight, just after Kabuto said that Sasuke didn't really want to fight him for his scrolls, because if he was really going to attack a comrade, he would have attacked without warning. Well, Naruto knew that Sasuke was bluffing. He was in no state for a one-to-one fight like he suggested, and he knew that he would rather die than ask Naruto to do the real work for him. Glasses Guy said that it was alright, and that they had to get going, because they were an easy target for other groups because of the smoke and fish smell. Naruto said nothing. Sasuke nodded, and hastily recovered their equipment, but he wondered if Glasses Guy said that because he knew there was a team tailing him. XXX. The group was to the tower, while talking with Kabuto. There are still groups left. Sasuke asked to Kabuto. Yeah, I'm absolutely sure of that. Think about it, and you'll see I'm right. Do you know what the best battle tactic is the last day in the exam? Especially if the final objective is arrive to the tower in the center of the forest. An ambush. We have to ambush the teams that have the 2 scrolls that are going to the tower. Sakura shouted. You have one of 3 right. Kabuto paused. You aren't the only ones in the same situation, there would be more teams that are already there and have trapped the area. I get it. There are enemies waiting. Lots of them. Great, I love challenges, Naruto shouted, the rest sweat dropped. Kabuto-san, what is the last possibility? Sakura asked, while ignoring Naruto outburst. The collectors, ninjas who are above average, who attack every team they find to lessen the competition, that way, they usually have a good number of scrolls. Even after they have the scrolls to pass the exam, they wait to the last moment to rest and get rid of the competition to finish the exam. They usually give their extra scrolls to their village comrades. Kabuto paused to give his speech a more dramatic feeling. They are exceptional warriors, with high ambition. The worst threat. Sasuke smirked. I see. I now know why you stopped to talk to us. You are also afraid of them. Kabuto smiled at them, and gave an affirmative nod. Naruto said nothing, but he was still very aware that there was something trailing them. The plan had just started, and only waiting was left. XXX. They were now walking slowly, trying not to be too loud, in the general direction of the tower. It was several hours after the encounter with that giant bug, and surprisingly enough they found it again. The corpse of the bug. The bug Naruto killed several hours ago. They were in the same location they started. Kabuto pushed his glasses into position, while Sasuke told everyone the obvious fact that they were trapped in a genjutsu that made they walk in circles for hours. Kabuto said that their purpose was to tire them out, so they were easier targets. He said that since they were pretty tired, they would show themselves soon. And they did. Several guys dressed in black, with a respirator and mist forehead protector appeared in front of them. The black copies surrounded them, and one voice taunted them saying that they had no escape. Naruto would not take that, and immediately attacked the shadow in front of him, that dissolved after his strong punch. Everyone in the group was surprised, especially after the illusion, because it was an illusion reshaped itself in few seconds. Sasuke tried to activate his Sharingan, in hope that the ability of the Sharingan to see through weak genjutsu would be enough to win the day. If he was capable of seeing the real ones, the fight was theirs. But his attempt failed, because a pain he never felt before started where the strange mark Orochimaru gave him was, and enveloped all his body. Even after he kneeled due to the pain, he was able to throw a pair of shurikens to a shadow that was going to attack Naruto in the back. The shadow dissolved after sending a kunai towards Sasuke, who was unable to dodge because he was paralyzed due to the seal Orochimaru gave him. Sasuke had to be pushed aside at the last second from Kabuto, who took the kunai in his arm. Naruto hadn't seen where the kunai had come from. These guys' skill had no openings, and they timed the throw perfectly right, so no one from their group was able to tell where the real ones were. Naruto wasn't exactly worried about it. If his plan worked, soon, they would be defeated, especially since those guys were supposed to be genjutsu experts, and usually, experts in an area badly in another. Genjutsu experts were traditionally known to be weak at taijutsu. But that was not really the main problem. The problem was that if the boss plan was going to work, it required that he couldn't be touched by the enemy. Naruto looked around, evaluating the clones. Were some of them not illusions? He knew the real ones, the ones that send the kunai that wounded glasses guy, weren't necessarily present there, especially since usually genjutsu specialists were weak at taijutsu, so they would want to avoid being in the front lines, but he couldn't be sure. Sasuke, who thanks to his Sharingan was able to see through the illusion, confirmed Naruto's unsaid suspicions when shouted, "It's useless, all of them are an illusion. Get out." Sakura interjected, doubting Sasuke's affirmation, but Kabuto's wound is real. Naruto tried to suppress rolling his eyes. Sakura was stating the obvious. How she had passed the academy exam was a real mystery to Naruto, and they failed him. There was no justice in Konoha. Of course the wound was real. Genin level genjutsu was nowhere as good to really alter their perceptions like that. Hell, those guys weren't that good, really. If he learned someday to make a decent bunshin, he was still unable to make one. He could replicate it. Well, the real tricky part would be synchronizing yourself with the bunshin, and fool your enemies long enough to be caught in the trap. Add a few cage bunshins into the mix, and he would have a better version of it. Not that it really mattered. Thanks to Fuzzy and his chakra, he could do it with cage bunshins easily, and he could forget about the synchronizing part. Naruto ignored Kabuto explaining to Sakura the fact that they were using the bunshins to cover their real position and confuse them. He had already deduced it. Naruto parried a pair of kunai with one of his. Avoiding was out of the question if he had to help the boss track their position. If he avoided them, the boss couldn't know which ones were real, and which was illusion, therefore he had to parry all of them while avoiding being hit. Naruto made a hand seal, and 3 cage bunshins appeared in around him. It exhausted him, but that way, even if all of them got hit, the boss would get to find 4 more real kunai between the false kunai parts of the illusion. How much more to wait before it was over? It took 15 minutes, but there was only one Naruto remaining again in front of those illusions, and then, a kunai he hadn't seen, reached his back. The Naruto in the clearing wasn't fast enough to react to Sakura's warning and got hit in the back. And the last Naruto cage bunshin poofed away. Sasuke and Sakura opened their mouth, dumbfounded. Where was the real one, then? They were still shocked by the disappearance of all the Narutos in the clearing, that they barely registered 3 different screams in the forest. A horde of cage bunshins appeared shortly thereafter, carrying 3 unconscious mist nins. Kabuto, with a smile, pushed his glasses into position. That kid wasn't that bad. The boy detected their attackers hours ago with his traps, had found a good occasion to slip away undetected, and replaced himself with a cage bunshin. Of course, he wasn't fooled. After all, the boy was still a genin while following them several meters away, avoiding detection from his teammates and their attackers, silently searching for their enemy. To be honest, the fact that he took hours to finally find the missed nins, and only after nearly half an hour of being under attack, was really disappointing. The boy had a lot of holes in his technique, his stealth. He had been aware of his position the entire time, but he could see the potential. With that enormous chakra, he could become a real powerhouse. What really was interesting was Sasuke. He could understand why Orochimaru was interested in him. Sasuke was strong enough to stand up and fight 2 days after receiving a cursed seal. Impressive. His skill with the Sharingan, one of the strongest bloodlines in the leaf, able to copy jutsus in his strongest form, was an added bonus. Being able to activate it while having the heaven seal disrupting your chakra system was a feat in itself. The boy's accuracy and analysis were also good. The fact that he managed to land a hit to Orochimaru-sama was something he would not expect from a mere genin. And the girl was the worst ninja he had ever seen in all his Chunin exams. How her Junin instructor nominated her to take the exam was something he could only justify because the two boys needed a third teammate. Yes, she knew the basic jutsus, a lot of theory and above-average chakra control, but that was all she knew. Her skills as a front-line kuonichi were laughable. Her taijutsu sucked, her ninjutsu and genjutsu were non-existent. Kabuto reflections were interrupted with the loud shout of Naruto, telling everybody miles around that they now had the heaven scroll.